Good morning, listeners. Tony Pellegrini from the CETL office here at Southern Utah University doing our February podcast with Adam Lambert. We are appreciative of you listening and tuning in to find out about teaching and learning here at Southern Utah University. And so, Adam, would you take a moment or two maybe and introduce yourself to us? Tell us a little about yourself. I apologize. I don't know if I've ever had the opportunity to meet you on campus, but we'd love to hear a little bit about you, where you're from, background, why you're here at SUU.
Well, thank you. When you reached out to me, I got to tell you, I was honored. This is a really neat privilege for me. I don't get out of the music office or music building very often, so this is really a treat for me. So it's hard to imagine it, but I've been here for 10 years now, going on 10 years. And, I guess you could call me a Utahn originally, although I have been around quite a bit. I've been in Nebraska. I was there for 7 years. I was in Texas for 3. So my family and I have had lots of experiences that have kind of led us here, I guess, a kind of full circle back. We have family here. My parents are still here, and so being able to be with them in the twilight of their life, I guess, has been kind of a nice thing. But I guess this has been kind of a goal of ours to teach higher ed. I started out in high school. I taught high school at Provo High School for about 5 years, and from there, we went to did some adjunct teaching additionally at BYU, and then made our way over to Texas, as I say, where I taught adjunct there, as well as worked on my doctorate in trumpet performance, and then worked my way back here to Utah. So.
That's exciting, just very exciting. And we do want to honor you as one of the Provost's distinguished educators from graduation last year. And in the CETL office, we do want to provide the opportunity to learn a little bit more about those who have earned these awards and honor them as well. So that honor road goes both ways, Adam. It certainly does.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Take a moment, if you would, to share with us why you've decided to become an educator. I know you'd mentioned, your family, those kinds of things, but give us a little more detail, if you would, of what kind of led you to be an educator.
Sure, you bet. So I guess it grows out of my love for music and sort of experiences that I've had in my youth that have kind of pointed to some interest and talents that I discovered, I guess, through that pathway. I actually grew up in Farmington, Utah, if you know where that is from this area, right behind Lagoon. And it was kind of a thing for me to go to Lagoon just about every day as a child. And I used to go there and watch the Lagoon Show Band. That was sort of my dream job, to land that opportunity to be in the Lagoon Show Band. And so it was almost every day I'd go out there and watch that band and just dream I could be part of it. And then as I grew up, I eventually auditioned and got into that group. And one day they actually had an opportunity to audition to be the director, the leader of the Lagoon Show Band. And so, I thought, why not? And I jumped right into it. And it was kind of an interesting experience. It felt really comfortable being in front of the group and rehearsing. And I found myself kind of being good at it, and the people responding to it and really just thriving. And it was kind of that moment where I had this thought, I could do this, for a living kind of a thing, or I could really pursue this. And so from there, I pursued music education at BYU and had some other opportunities to jump in some assistant roles at American Fork High School and Orem High School, and kind of discovered that it was actually a lot of fun, and I was pretty good at it, and it continued to grow from there. And my dad also, I should say, was a trombone player, played in a dance band, and I used to sit back and watch him play and think, man, I want to be just like my dad. So we that was also part of it. But it just became something that I just was very comfortable with, that I found success in early on. Scholarships kind of led me through that process. I was able to get a trumpet scholarship at various schools. And I have to say, my love is in both playing and teaching. I don't do so much playing anymore, to be honest. But in the day, I used to play professional trumpet in the Salt Lake City area with the Salt Lake City Jazz Festival and the Park City Jazz Festival, and that was going on and that sort of thing. But my conducting is where my love is right now, working with students, and it's led me here. So,
to me, this is absolutely fascinating. You've connected so well with me. Maybe this is a podcast of one. I was a BYU theater student. That's where I was a drama teacher. So we'd look across the Harris Fine Arts Center and at the music people and say, those people really know their stuff. So that honor goes all the way back to there. Additionally, your mention of, your passion for playing and then moving that passion to a different level, to conducting. It's not like when I became principal, my dad said, will you stop changing jobs? He was a police officer for 33 years, a police lieutenant.
Right.
And, Dad, you have to kind of move and develop and grow a little bit. And so I was very impressed with that.
No, that's exactly, it's interesting because I think that it doesn't necessarily change my love or my role or even because I think being a player has just made me a better instructor and conductor. And I think the idea that I can relate on that level with these students, it's my experience doesn't come as a conductor and teacher as one that is disconnected from the performer. I understand what it took to get there. I understand the logistics of how to produce sound. I understand because I had to do it myself. I had to work through that process. So, but it's interesting too because performing. I'm saying this carefully because I think it's a wonderful expressive outlet, but it is it certainly is collaborative, and I'd like to share that a little bit too later. But the idea that I can see and be a part of other people's success, just not my own solitary success, I think has been really a growth experience for me.
And I'm looking at this from the outside. I can't ever imagine a conductor not having been a player of something. Yeah. For someone to come in and say, well, I've had all this conducting classes and coursework and I know how to do this, but you have to connect on that kind of visceral level of being able to do. I really was impressed too with your response to the first question when you said to yourself, why not? Why not? Why not be a trumpet player? Why not give this a try? Is that something you share with your learners as well to encourage them to say, hey, you can do this?
I absolutely. In fact, I think I always like to kind of work toward the highest common denominator, I guess, the ones that are willing to jump in and give it all that they've got, kind of a thing, and then it brings others along with them, kind of a thing. The idea that the music may be on the edge of their ability, or maybe the vision of taking them on a tour or a festival, maybe on the edge of something that they're maybe uncomfortable with, but they meet that goal most often, most of the time, if not all the time. And I like to work toward those strongest students because I keep them and they're excited about it. But then the others who perhaps aren't quite at that level join that enthusiasm and energy and meet that and come along right along with them. So
that power of friendship, that power of peer, to do good things. It can go the other way too, but boy, when it can do good things, we sure love that, don't we?
Exactly.
Let me kind of change the tack just a little bit, and you've probably addressed this a little bit already, but I'd like to ask you to dive a little deeper. Do you have a teaching philosophy? Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. Yeah, as I think about that off the top of my head, I'll tell you what. I think the simplest way to frame it is that my philosophy is based on relationships. I feel like relationships with students defines my role and their relationship with me, their relationship with the music, and their relationship with their their experience in the classroom, their relationship that they make musically. It's all about relationships. So I feel like that in my effort to be student-centered entirely, in other words, everything that I strive to do professionally, things that I try to do outside of the classroom needs to circle back to students. It has to be about the students. That's what keeps it exciting for me. That's what keeps it fresh for me. As soon as I start to go inward about what I'm trying to do, then it kind of takes on a selfish mode, and frankly, I'm not very happy. But if I can continue my energy toward the students, it seems to really thrive. But then also, I have found that when I work with students and I strive to I follow a lot of the Stephen R. Covey mindsets of being on the same side of the issue, for example. I'm not a proponent necessarily of having me always being on this sort of pedestal as a teacher and student on the lower level, but by being on the same level so that we can both accomplish the same end. I don't think it diminishes my ability to have respect for the students. I think that they actually respect me more in some ways because they feel like that we're on that same level. But then again, simple things like this may seem obvious, but just kindness and being supportive, but also holding them to a standard of excellence and professionalism. There's sort of three pillars that I like to keep in mind. One is, how is the instructional environment impacting their learning? What are my goals in terms of organizing the instructional process? So I guess you'd say I have the instructional environment, the instructional priorities that guide my goals, and then the process, how I execute those things. So anyway, yeah, I guess it kind of circles back to some of the Covey principles that I really believe in. There's the concept of deposits and withdrawals, the idea of being able to, have enough deposits where they feel comfortable to be able to be corrected and assisted, so they feel comfortable in that space. Anyway.
No, that's great. And what I really love is the alignment that you've made to that relationship, or that, so your philosophy and your work with learners is on developing that relationship with your learners, between learners and you, but also your learners are, like you mentioned in the previous response, they're forming peer relationships as well, and making those relationships so they can see at some point, hey, yes, I can do this among my peers, but, I've seen how Dr. Lambert has reached out to me and has invested in me, going back to Covey's, investments, has invested in me. I can do that as well, too, with others.
Right. There is a great teacher that I respect. His name is James Jordan from Westminster Choir College. He has a book that actually is interesting. I think it's titled Empathy in Music. And the idea is that this is a shared and empathetic experience where each time we strive to create music and be within this environment, that it's very much an awareness of others and my contribution to and their contribution, and how together our contribution creates this beauty, this art. And it really is a selfless activity. I try to kind of teach that myself, where once we come into that room, it's no longer about you, it's about us. So rehearsals take on a whole new meaning. I mean, math classes, other classes, I get the importance of doing well, but oftentimes if you don't attend, it doesn't exactly impact others as much as it doesn't you individually. But boy, in this context, every last person plays such an important role in accomplishing the end product of excellence. And when you catch that vision, then all of a sudden, everything you play, every last sound you make in the ensemble contributes to a harmony, or to even a singular, a unison note, or whatever it is, where that shape of that note, the beauty of the note is a unified effort. So it's kind of an exciting synergy that can take place.
That is wonderful. And I can, even from my theater arts background, I can sense that passion and vision from you. Certainly, and you've just touched on it just a little bit about that coming together as a group, and it's a group experience. As you come into your classroom, is that part of your classroom management plan as well? Could you take a moment and show how they're kind of tied together?
Yeah, you bet. So, I think, well, first of all, I think it's just so important that students feel safe in my classroom. I mean, obviously, the professionalism goal and excellence is always the end target for our efforts. But at the same time, I just feel like students really need to know that it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, we sort of have a process where when we jump into a certain piece or a certain line that we're working on, and if there is a moment when we're just simply not getting it to the level that we'd hope, there's instruction. I encourage them to stop, to mark it, to maybe we work it out just for a few minutes, and then I invite them to come back and hit it again without perhaps this feeling of reprimand, but just a unified goal of, hey, it's okay, we can come back and look at this later. Sort of an ownership thing where they understand that their role is to come back with it with the best of their ability, but it's okay at the end of the day to make mistakes. It's part of the process of learning how to accomplish the goal in the end. As far as my classroom, there are a couple of things I try to do, even from the word go. There's an agenda on the door each day that lists all the pieces that we're going to be addressing or rehearsing. Oftentimes, I will text it to a group text that we've created as well, so they can show up and have that ready to go. Our percussionists have a long list of things they need to get ready before we begin. And so 1 o'clock is our downbeat for our wind symphony. I should have mentioned this. I actually do a lot of things here. I do the wind symphony. I teach the top jazz ensemble here. I teach private trumpet. So I do a lot of different things. But in this particular context, in the wind symphony, the concert band, we start right at 1 o'clock, right on the dot. The percussion come early, have it all set up. So there's a sense of pride and professionalism that this is an important thing that they're doing, that they're excited to be part of, that it's something that they take pride in, and I think there is that sense as we go forward. Usually, everyone understands that it's all about music making. There's no talking, and they respond quite positively to instruction that's given. But I found that you don't have to worry about conversation not going on if they're constantly engaged in what their activity is. If they're constantly doing and bought into it, then they actually do pretty well. And at the end of the day, if they are excited about coming back the next day, that what we've done in this rehearsal at the end of the day is something that has inspired them to want to come back with enthusiasm, then mission accomplished. So
I think, too, your focus on process, that this is a process so profound to be able to say we're not going to be able to do it all
right.
today. You're not going to learn everything today. This is a process, and that can be transferred to so many other parts of their lives as well.
Exactly.
And I was an elementary school principal, but I say the best training I ever had for elementary principal was that drama training. I can be Cristoforo Colombo, or I can do I can be as if I am that, and I can, extend and practice through those.
Exactly.
Just one last question for you before we break. So much is in the news today about social emotional learning. You've talked about relationships. You've talked about, context and process. What do you do to focus on those social emotional, lifting your students or providing them social emotional skills in your class?
It's, I've been thinking so much about this because, like I mentioned, much of what I do is one-on-one, is private instruction. And as you know, as all of us knows, that there is a remarkable amount of attention on mental health. And the young people today are faced with such challenges. They, finding, as I've mentioned, safe places or having opportunities where they can overcome day-to-day challenges seems to be increasingly difficult. And I have really found joy, frankly, in being able to connect with my students one-on-one. Like I say, I teach them privately. I teach trumpet, but oftentimes that leads to other things, about life and about concerns. And I have been honored, frankly, to be able to have these students visit with me about some of the concerns that they have, about the anxieties that they feel as they go about their day in school and in life and in relationships. And it's been a remarkable thing. And I think one of the most important things as a teacher is being able to be a mentor, being able to set an example of one that has character. Don't get me wrong, I'm not standing here trying to say that I am the epitome of these things, but it has been something that has been pretty great because I for one reason or another, some students have felt comfortable coming to me and really wanting advice about career and about school and classes, but also about life choices and such. And I've been able to, in my unique role, I guess, they're being able to give them some direction one-on-one that I think has made a difference. I mean, they keep coming back certainly to ensembles and these smaller sessions that we have. Also, I think I have found that the way I treat them is the way they treat others when they're with me. And so, wow, that's been such a powerful lesson for me, that if I treat them with respect, if I, use proper language, frankly, if I just do things that create an environment of positivity, they reflect that and they respond to that. And I think it's been a powerful thing. I think, yes, music making at a professional level is our goal, but I just feel like we do so much more over there in that music department. We try to create a community where people feel loved and supported and sort of be a springboard for the rest of their lives. So,
Adam, thank you so very much. Our time is about out, but I just want to give you one last words of wisdom for us, for students. Any last minute words of wisdom that you'd care to share?
Well, as I've mentioned, relationships between, in speaking to the perspective, well, I should say that the developing teacher, perhaps. Like I say, I've been fortunate to be teaching for many years now, and I'm 10 years now here at Southern Utah. I just think there's nothing greater than putting our entire focus on students, understanding that there are so many distractions. Speaking to teachers, of course, there are pressures to do so many things to progress in your career and to advance. And of course, the professional development that's required and so many other things which are so important. But at the end of the day, if we circle back to students, if we remember that is the reason why we are here. I mean, we might as well give them a textbook and an internet site and say, good luck if we're not going to actually be the ones that can have an impact on these people. The content is great, but we're the X factor. We're the thing that brings it to life. And that has been my true joy in my profession.
Adam, thank you so much for taking time with us this morning. We sure appreciate you. I've appreciated learning more about you and your passion. I would like to extend to all of our listeners, I haven't visited with Adam about this first, but take a moment to come by the music building. He doesn't get out of the music building too much, like he said. So come by and visit, maybe visit his class, maybe knock on the door with those individual lessons and just come in and see how he works with learners, see this firsthand. So I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds there.
That would be
wonderful.
Terrific. Thank you.
Friends, thank you so much for your engagement today. Adam, thank you. And I hope you'll listen to us next month as we visit with another instructor.
Great. Thank you, Tony.